Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. What's up, fam? What's up? What's up? What's up? We are here for the Gary Russell Jr. versus Mark Magsayo immediate reaction. And the fight results read as Mark Magsayo has now defeated Gary Russell Jr., ending the longest reign, championship reign in boxing, defeating Gary Russell Jr. by majority decision. One judge having it 114 to 114, and the other two judges having it 115 to 113. Mark Magsayo walks away with the win, taking the WBC featherweight championship with him, and it looks like Gary Russell Jr.'s title reign is over, fight fans. So, man, I gotta say though, man, I gotta tell y'all, fight fans, even though, and I don't want to take nothing away from Mark Magsayo's win, he pulled it out, he got the job done, but I can't sit here and say that I'm like overly super impressed with him. You know what I mean? The way that this fight went, fight fans, Gary Russell Jr. suffered. It looked like his injury that we was wondering what was that injury was. It showed up in the fight. It looked like that particular injury was a right shoulder injury because from round four, where it looked like the injury aggravated Gary Russell Jr., from round four on down, the jab was pretty much non-existent from Gary Russell Jr. As a matter of fact, looking at the punch stats, from round six all the way to round 12, Gary Russell Jr. did not land one jab. So the injury that showed to be the injury that he was hiding was the right shoulder, fight fans, and it definitely showed up in this fight, man. But I gotta tell you, man, I can't say that I'm like overly impressed. The way this fight started out early, in the early rounds, when Gary Russell Jr. looked like he had a problem finding his range. He was pawing with that jab, trying to find his range, and pretty much the only shot that he was throwing in the first four, like the first three rounds, I'd say was pretty much the jab. And he was having a bit of a problem finding his range. Mark Magsayo was coming in with a 1-2 and successful and having some successes as a counterpuncher by counterpunching in bunches early on in the fight. And I noticed, I said, damn, he having a bit success. So round one, I gave round one to Mark Magsayo. I gave round two to Gary Russell Jr. I thought Mark Magsayo hit a bunch of arms, hit a bunch of gloves in round two. He did a lot of swinging, but wasn't really landing nothing really thudding. You know what I mean? And Gary Russell Jr.'s jab and movement to me won rounds two. However, round three and four, I gave to Mark Magsayo. You know what I mean? I thought Mark Magsayo, though he wasn't having a super amount of success, he still was the more active fighter. He still was controlling the pace of the fight at this point in the fight. And he was, though he wasn't overly landing punches, he still was sneaking a punch here and there. That left hook was sneaking here and there. That 1-2 would sneak in here and there. And it was enough to kind of woo those rounds. But round four is where we saw Gary Russell Jr. wince in pain. Like he looked like he threw a jab, and I don't know if it landed funny or if it made his arm or wrist twist a little funny, but he felt the injury, he felt some pain in his right shoulder. You know what I'm saying? And from that round on down, in round five, he landed one jab, and from round six all the way to round 12, no more jabs from Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell had to switch the style mid-fight, in which he had to then go from using his jab to try to find the range. And we all know that Gary Russell Jr. is a big-time jabber. He averages 37 jabs a round, you know what I mean? But he went from averaging 37 jabs a round to, after round four, throwing pretty much no jabs, you know what I mean? So he had to switch and had to stand on punches and use the left hand, and he just turned into a counter puncher. So he started moving and trying to lure Mark Magsayo in. And when Mark Magsayo would throw shots, he was trying to hit him with a counter left hand. Now, down the stretch, I thought Gary Russell Jr. was doing pretty well landing the left hand. The only problem was it wasn't enough. The activity level and the volume was coming from Mark Magsayo. Mark Magsayo was not that accurate, but he was throwing a hell of a lot of shots. It was hitting arms, it was missing a lot, but he still was active. And I said to myself, I said, the straight left hand that Gary is throwing is not going to be enough to woo the judges. You know what I'm saying? Those judges are going to sit back and they're going to say, yeah, it's just not enough. Where Mark Magsayo was just steadily coming forward, steadily pressing the action, steadily swinging. And though missing, you know what I'm saying? But it's still enough to woo the judges. So, like I said, in rounds four, I had to fight literally 3 rounds to 1 for Mark Magsayo. Round 5, I gave to Gary Russell Jr. Round 6, I gave to Mark Magsayo. Round 7, I gave to Gary Russell Jr. Round 8, which was I thought Gary Russell Jr.'s best round of the fight. At this point, Gary Russell was landing left hands. Matter of fact, in this round, it got to the point where he landed like 2, 3 straight rapid succession of left hands straight down the pike. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was his best round of the fight. Round 9, a lot more. A lot of Mark Magsayo coming forward, trying to pin Gary Russell down, and he was doing a lot of missing, just doing a lot of hitting the gloves, a lot of missing, sneaker shot here and there, but just nothing too thudding, you know what I'm saying? And so I gave round 9 to Gary Russell Jr. However, rounds 10, round 11, and rounds 12, I'm going to be honest with you. Well, no, rounds 10 and 11, I gave round 12 to Gary Russell. 10 and 11, I gave to Mark Magsayo. I thought Mark Magsayo, what he did, he made an adjustment. Freddie Roach started to get in his face and say, hey, turn it up a little bit. Turn it up a little bit, man. Why are you standing on the outside? Push him, press him. And I thought in rounds 10 and 11, he started to press Gary a little more, and he started to hit Gary to the body. You know what I'm saying? What Mark Magsayo wasn't noticing the entire fight was that if he would have just countered to Gary's body, he had to fight pretty much all night. Gary couldn't stop the counter shots downstairs. Gary was weaving them upstairs, and he was catching them upstairs. The problem was Gary was having a problem with catching them downstairs. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that by Gary Russell Jr. having an injured shoulder, it allowed Mark Magsayo's left hook to land a lot better, and most importantly, land the body shots a lot better. This was all due to Gary Russell Jr. having that injured shoulder. But Mark Magsayo never gave up. Instead, he came forward. He didn't get tired. And though he done a lot of missing, it was enough to woo the judges on activity, I thought. And, you know, that's how he pretty much pulled this fight out, man. So Mark Magsayo becomes a world champion tonight, fight fans. Like I said, I just didn't think that I can't run around and say that I'm super overly impressed with Mark Magsayo, because by Gary Russell Jr. being in there and being in there hurt, I didn't like the fact that he didn't kick it up to another gear. I didn't like the fact that, he just kind of was complacent with the level that he was fighting at the time. You know what I'm saying? Early on in the fight, Mark Magsayo did a good job of using his range and staying on the outside and using that 1-2. You know what I'm saying? He did a good job using the 1-2, and he did a good job of landing the left hook and throwing counter shots in bunches early on. In the third round, Russell timed him with a straight left hand, man, that really buzzed him pretty good. That was perhaps Russell's best punch landed of the fight. Like I said, Gary couldn't counter punch. His countering ability was pretty much gone because of the injury to the shoulder. So Mark Magsayo was allowed to pretty much come in with no incoming fire, just a straight left hand that he had to worry about. And that was pretty much it. And on top of that, like I said, Gary couldn't counter. He really couldn't lead off. You know what I mean? And he couldn't counter with jabs. Gary Russell Jr. is known to be a jabber. He even counters with jab. He'll counter and jab you 3-4 times. You know what I'm saying? Couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. And unfortunately, he paid a price for that. Also, I noticed that when Gary Russell Jr. Had to just use strictly his left hand, it made him much more elusive. It made him much more defensively minded. So he was able to stay out of the way of a lot of the shots of Magsayo. But unfortunately, it made his activity come down dramatically, and it was not going to be enough to woo the judges. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. My main man, Gary Russell Jr., gets upset at fight fans by Mark Magsayo. Mark Magsayo never hurt Gary Russell Jr., and not that I've seen, he never looked like he was in the ballpark of dropping Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr., who has been inactive for a couple years, showed good fitness in this fight, and also he was boxing pretty well early on. And I really think that if he wouldn't have, if his shoulder injury wouldn't have got worse, he would have hit his stride in the fight. You know what I'm saying? But Mark Magsayo is a young champion now, and he's 26 years of age. He's now defeated the longest reigning champion in boxing. I'm sure he got a whole country behind him out there in the Philippines. Y'all gonna ride for him, man. And, this is a big win for Mark Magsayo. You know what I'm saying? This is a big win, but I'm sure my man Gary Russell Jr. will be back. So let me see what the fam is talking about, and let's see if we going to get through this. Y'all know I'm hurting behind this one, fight fans. I am definitely hurting behind this. Nino Brown runs boxing, says, yo, man, the WBC better run it back, man. It would be nice You would think that since he's the longest reigning champion, that he would run it back. But Nino Brown, let's just keep it 100, fam. Let's keep it 100. They not gonna let Curry run this back. They, the WBC right now, bro, is smiling from ear to ear. You dig? They Gary Russell Jr. don't got that belt no more. Now they can get more sanctioning fees. They don't have to worry about just worrying about Gary coming around fighting once a year no more. Gary Russell Jr. losing that belt was the worst thing that can happen to him. And the WBC is not going to do him no favors to try to put him back in position to get it back. You can bet that. You know what I mean? JP Mendez says, rematch. It sucks to see him lose to an injury. I agree. You know, I honestly wish he would have not went through with the fight now, seeing how it affected him in his fight. I really wish he would have pulled himself out of this fight. You know what I'm saying? That injury, I mean, I don't know. Listening to Gary Russell Jr., and we're going to listen to some audio, fight fans. Listening to Gary Russell Jr. explain his injury in the post-fight interview, he says that he got injured a couple weeks ago. Looked like the injury, he noticed it about 2 weeks ago. According to Gary Russell Jr., this has been a nagging injury that he's been dealing with for quite some time. So I got some audio. So fam, let's just listen to what the fighters was talking about right after the fight for those who missed it. And I'm gonna get back to some of y'all comments in a minute. Give me a second, man. Let me pull this on up, and so we can listen to my man Gary and listen to what Mark Magsayo also had to say. So let's start with the winner in Mark Magsayo for those who missed it.
Thank you. This is my dream. My dream come true. This is my dream since I was a kid, since I'm amateur, and now I'm professional, and now I'm champion. This is my dream. Thank you, Sean, BBC, Showtime. Thank you. Lemon, thank you so much.
What do you think this means to everybody back in the Philippines to have another champion?
Yes, I'm so proud that I'm a champion now, and thank you for my support, the Filipino fans and Filipino here. Thank you so much.
Let's talk a little bit about the fight if we can. Could you tell that his right arm and his right shoulder were impaired during the fight?
Yes, I hurt him in the third round. I hit him in a good shot. So that's why he got hurt.
And were you, having been aware of it, do you feel you were able to take advantage of that?
Yeah, that's a little bit advantage for me because he's only using only one hand. And this is my opportunity to follow him, to follow through my punch.
What was your strategy from that point on when you knew it wouldn't be effective?
Coach Freddy and Coach Marvin said to me, just good combination, follow through, and this is it. This is gonna be your dream. This is you become a world champion now. Now I became a champion. Woo! Thank you.
When he couldn't jab, that changed the entire complexion of this fight, correct?
Yes, the jab.
He couldn't jab you.
Yeah, I guess he didn't jab me. He's only using one hand. That's why I get him hurt. He hurt a lot.
Since he was hurt and impaired, would you give him a rematch?
It's up to Sir Charlie Evans and my promotions. It's up to them. But I'm
No
willing to
rematch.
fight anybody now. I'm a champion now.
You are a champion right now. Congratulations to you. Let us talk to Gary.
Hey, brother, take you.
When they give that promotional answer, fight fans, y'all already know ain't no rematch gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no rematch gonna happen. Peter says, yo, Gary Russell Jr. won the 12th round. 100%. He definitely won the 12th round, so I definitely gave him to Gary Russell Jr., man. Overall, as far as my scorecards is concerned, fight fans, I gave Gary Russell Jr. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I gave Gary Russell Jr. 5 rounds. So basically, I got this fight a 7-5 fight for Mark Magsayo. I think he pulled it out. Activity could be the one thing. A lot of people may look at this and say, well, Gary landed the clean, effective punching down the stretch. You know, that's the reason I gave him the rounds that I given him, especially in rounds 8 and 9. I thought at that point the left hand was shining on Gary. I wish Gary would have mixed it up with the left hand a little more, like he was sitting on the counter shot looking for the straight left hand. But I noticed when he was mixing the left hand upstairs and downstairs is where he was having a bit more success. He got caught up into this thing of just trying to lure Magsayo into a corner or into a trap and hit him with that straight left hand. But I wish he would have mixed it upstairs and downstairs. He did not have a jab to find his range. He did not have a jab to lead off combinations. He did not have really much incoming fire or punch variety to give Mark Magsayo as Magsayo was walking in. You know what I'm saying? And I knew that, like I said, I knew the judges was going to look at the activity of Magsayo and rule his way. Not to mention, I don't know if y'all peeped this, but Mark Magsayo came into the fight with a TMT shirt on. I'm just saying, though. I'm just saying. I don't know if y'all peeped that out. Mark Magsayo came into the fight with a TMT shirt, a T-shirt on. What the hell is that about? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Go back and watch the fight. When y'all go back and watch, look at what the T-shirt that Mark Magsayo entered the ring in. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just gonna leave it right there. Yeah. Big upsets. Hey, my man Zion said, I told you so, bro. Zion, you called it, man. You did call it. I know a lot of fight fans looked at everything that was going on around Gary leading into this fight and say, man, I just smell an upset. And that's why I say I can't be mad at fans who saw the signs and thought that they saw something. You know what I mean? But clearly the injury was definitely a bigger part of this fight than we thought. I really do believe that if Gary Russell Jr. was 100%, that he would have beat Mark Magsayo. But Mark Magsayo definitely pulled it out. So let's listen. Now we've listened to to Mark Magsayo. So let's take a listen to what Gary Russell Jr. had to say and what he had to say about his injury after the fight fans. This is Gary Russell Jr.
Problem with your right arm or right shoulder?
Man, I believe I have a torn tendon in my right shoulder. I haven't competed in almost 2 years. This is what true champions do. I wanted to step into the ring and display my superiority, regardless of an injury or whatnot. We did that. I gave him a boxing lesson. I gave him a boxing lesson the whole way through. I landed clean whenever I wanted to. I couldn't use my right arm, but I was still able to throw effective shots and touch him at will.
When did you know that you were impaired? At what point in training camp?
About 2 weeks ago.
So why did you go through with the fight?
I'm a true champion. This is what warriors do. I fight regardless of what the situation is. I refuse to not compete and display my skill set to my fans, to the people that came out to show support and love. Please believe I will be back. I still want these fights. I'm out to get my shoulder fixed and we back at it. We booging.
So even with so much on the line, you're saying you'd rather come out and fight than to not be in the physical shape you need to be to win.
Say that one more time.
With so much on the line, what you're saying is you'd rather come out and compete than be in top physical shape before the fight.
No, that's not actually the case. Like I say, I had almost a 2-year layoff. I was itching to get back in the ring and compete. I injured my shoulder about 2 weeks ago in the training camp. I refused to postpone this fight and push it back. I believed in my skill set and what I bring into the ring. I felt like I still won the fight, to be honest with you.
And would you feel you're going to need surgery?
It's possible. They wanted me to. It's an old injury. You know, I had this back before the 2008 Olympics. They wanted me to go and get surgery on it. I refused to go and get surgery on it. They said I could strengthen the muscles around it to actually protect the tendon. I didn't do it. I mean, I actually strengthened the muscles. I was able to get through a lot of my fights and stuff. But I heard it in my training camp. But once again, I'm a true soldier. I'm a dog at the end of the day. I refused to put this fight back, and I fought with one arm. He had his hands full with a fighter with one arm. The whole fight, I gave him a boxing lesson.
Will you request a rematch based on the condition you were in?
Hell yeah. Will he want a rematch?
I don't know, but
That's the question. I'll rematch him.
all right.
Man, they're not going to give Gary no damn rematch. Magsayo had the advantage, but didn't impress anyone, says the homie JP Mendez. I agree with you, fam. I got to say, man, I mean, I don't leave overwhelmingly impressed. You know what I mean? It would have been more impressive that if he would have sensed Gary hurt in there, that he would have jumped on in Gary Russell and actually stopped Gary Russell or actually turned it up another level or turned it up another gear. But Mark Magsayo got caught into this thing where he was standing on the outside. He was real kind of, he wasn't throwing like punches and bunches and coming forward and being like this killer. No. He was real kind of hesitant to a certain degree. He was very inaccurate. He didn't kick, like I say, kick it up to the next level. He didn't really take the fight to Gary Russell like that. And I don't know, man. Even before Gary got hurt in the early rounds, he still was playing an outside game in which he was using his height and length on Gary more so as a taking the fight to Gary. So I gotta say, man, I mean, I can't say I'm super impressed with this dude. Like, he won, yeah, he beat Gary. Gary's injury definitely showed in the fight, but I can't say I'm super impressed with him. You know what I mean? I can't say it was a super impressive victory. Even Gary with one arm, and he didn't have one arm from like round 4 on down. Looking at the judges' scorecards, hell, one judge even gave it a draw. One judge scored it 114 to 114. The other two judges only gave it to Mark Magsayo by 2 rounds, 115 to 113. So it wasn't a, it wasn't a star-making performance. You know what I'm saying? It was a performance that he did like just enough to defeat an injured champion. And in Gary Russell's case, who was inactive, coming off of not being in the ring for 2 years, injured, clearly maybe struggling with the weight to a certain degree, and fought the fight with one arm. And this is the best that he pulled out. So, I mean, I can't honestly say that I'm overly impressed, but I do think that I've seen him do enough to probably win this fight. You know what I'm saying? I will say that. I just got off work. I missed everything. I heard Gary lost. Do you see a rematch? Says Buddy Love. No, no rematch, bro. They're not going to give Gary a rematch. I'm telling you, politically, boxing politics do not favor Gary Russell Jr. That's just the facts of the matter. You know what I mean? The WBC is not happy with champions like a Gary Russell Jr., even like a Devin Haney to a certain degree. But in Gary's case, it's more he doesn't fight that often. They can't make a lot of money off of him. They're not going to be pressing anybody for a rematch. And Mark Magsayo, who's a man with a country, they'll look to do another fight with maybe like him and Leo Santa Cruz. I noticed Mark Magsayo thanked Al Heyman. You know what I'm saying? He came in there with a TMT t-shirt on, so he's fully PBC right now. I can definitely see Premier Boxing Champions taking Mark Magsayo and putting him into a unification fight with Leo Santa Cruz. Watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you. Leo Santa Cruz still holds the WBA super title down at 126. They're going to put Leo Santa Cruz and Mark Magsayo in the fight. Watch what I tell you. Watch what I tell you. Myron, what's up, man? Hey, man, our man took a loss tonight, Myron. He took a hard loss tonight, champ. Hard loss. Should have been a draw. You got to beat the champ, and he didn't. It can be argued that. One judge definitely saw a draw. You know what I'm saying? That could be argued. It could be argued. I mean, he did not really take the fight to the champ. He did not really take the fight to Gary. It was, like I said, I thought the judges were more so wooed on activity. Because down the stretch, Gary was just sizing him up for one shot, trying to pot shot with that left hand. And he could have won it only on activity alone because he was throwing more shots than Gary, significantly more shots than Gary, but he was missing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, he was throwing the shots, but he was missing. A lot of that shit was hitting gloves. You know what I'm saying? He hit him with a couple good 1-2s, and he snuck a few good left hooks in there, but I can't say I overwhelmingly saw it being done on a consistent basis. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't leave impressed with the kid. But it can be argued that he won it on volume and activity. You know what I'm saying? And just Gary just down the stretch just wasn't doing enough. His main punch was gone. The jab. His main punch. You know what I mean? So, damn, it is what it is. Mark 1 and 2, Gary's 3, 4, and 5. Mark 1 and 2, Gary 3, 4, and 5. That's normally what we see, Dewan. Gary is a 3, 4, 5 type puncher. You know, he's his combinations coming in 5 burst combinations, easy work. He was in there pot shotting, man. He was in there pot shotting for round 4 all the way to 12. That ain't Gary, champ. That wasn't Gary. That wasn't Gary, man. That wasn't Gary. I see a lot of the fans coming through saying you got to beat the champ. I hear that. Dewan say you got to beat the champ. I hear that. Huh? A lot of y'all think that he didn't do enough to win it. I tell you, like I said, the judges only gave it to him by a 2-round margin. For a man with one arm from round 4 to round 12, he only won it by a 2-round margin. That's not. I'm not jumping. I'm not overly impressed with him. That's not the second coming of Pacquiao. But like I say, man, he came in there with a TMT shirt on. You know what I mean? La D, what's up, Queen? What's up with you? Chilling. What's up with you? What's up? You know I'm hurting behind this loss tonight, La. You know I'm hurting behind this loss tonight. You know It is what it is, man. Look at Adrian. Adrian say he beat the champ. Adrian, you been saying that man gonna lose anyway, huh? It is what it is, man. It is what it is. No, there's no rematch clause, There's no rematch clause. There's only a rematch hope. And in that case, we already know what's going to happen in Gary's case. This is very unfortunate. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to have a hell of a lot to say on tomorrow's live stream, speaking about Gary Russell Jr. But Mark Magsayo is a ride fight fans. What is PBC going to do with Mark Magsayo? You know what I mean? What is he going to do with Mark Magsayo? Yeah, hey, them Packers took a mean upset too, didn't they? And I know, Zion, your Packers took that upset tonight, man. Upset night tonight, champ. It's upset night tonight, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gary wanted an excuse and got one. He wasn't even touching Mark in the first 3 rounds. First 3 rounds, I gave Mark the first, I gave Gary the second, and I gave Mark the third. I thought in the second, Mark was very inactive himself. You want to speak about accuracy, bro. Mark Magsayo's accuracy tonight was not all that, man. You know what I mean? So he done a bunch of swinging, just done a bunch of missing, hit a bunch of gloves, hit a bunch of arms, just like Gary said he was going to make him do. The only problem was Gary could not retaliate. Gary can make him miss, but he couldn't make him pay. You know what I mean? And that was the issue. And like I said, Mark Magsayo got into a point, even Freddie Roach is screaming at him, bro, you got to turn it up, turn it up. Take it to the next level, turn it up. I mean, you got Freddie Roach trying to make him rise up because it's like, bro, you got an injured fighter in front of you who can't swing but one arm. Why can't you get around one shot? And, you know, Gary's left hand was landing. Now, I will say in rounds probably 10 and 11, not as well down the stretch, but 7, 8, and 9, hey, he was sitting on that left hand, man. Every time Mark Magsayo would miss, Gary would pop him with a straight left hand. And he was slipping left hands in there. I don't even know if the camera was catching. He was sneaking left hands in there left and right, man. And rounds 7, 8, and 9, he was shining on the left hand. Rounds 10 and 11, I thought Mark Magsayo started to go to the body. And that was the adjustment he made in those rounds. And he had some success in those rounds. You know what I'm saying? Rounds 12, I gave to Gary Russell Jr., man. It was a good fight, man. Real close fight, man. Real close fight. Adrian the Problem says, respect to Gary Russell Jr. Congrats to the new champ, Mark, man. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for not terrorizing me too much tonight, Adrian the Problem. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Vincent, man. What say you, Vincent? What's up, bro? Freddie Roach was terrible. He did not give Mark advice on how to deal with a one-handed fighter. He didn't. Freddie Roach was just telling him, and just like I told everybody going into this fight, Freddie Roach's thing was to make Mark Magsayo get more intense. Freddie Roach likes a fighter that imposes themselves. He wanted Mark to impose himself more. The problem was, I think Mark was thinking that if I overdo it, that's the problem. You know what I mean? And because he was doing a lot of missing. So it was a balance that Mark was trying to do, would keep missing Gary Russell Jr. or turn it up to the next level. Because if he turned it up too much and kept missing, he was going to get touched with the left hand all night. So he had to run a balancing act. But, yeah, Freddie didn't have nothing for him, though, man. I mean, I'm going to tell you like this, fight fans. Skill-wise, from a skill point of view, I'm telling you, man, I just don't think Mark Magsayo going to hold that belt long. I'm just saying. Defensively, he got so many holes. He does not kick it up gears. He doesn't kick it up to the next gear when he needs to. He has this thing where he postures. And that's something that Freddie Roach been telling them for the last few fights. You got to kick it up. You got to kick it up. I told you one fight, Freddie Roach even smacked him. Like, wake up. You know what I'm saying? And Mark Magsayo gets caught in that a lot. And he got caught in that tonight. So he might have got away by the skin of his chin because Gary was injured. But I'm telling you, man, if he keeps being a deer in the headlights, he's going to lose to the other guys. He's going to lose to other champions. I'm telling you. Especially somebody who's looking to go in there and throw much more punches than what Gary was throwing in there tonight. You know what I mean? Yeah, DJ Zion Love says now Leo won't fight Gary now. Nah, you can forget it. Hey, they're going to act like Gary don't exist, bro, and I'm just calling it for what it is. What's going to have to happen? What's going to have to happen for Gary to get back? Hey, let's start right here. Move up. I think it's time for Gary to move up. He's been at 26 his entire career. There are other opportunities at other weight classes. Gary should move up. Unless PBC is going to somehow, some way maneuver him into that Leo Santa Cruz fight, which at present moment, I don't think so. I think they'll maneuver Mark Magsayo into that fight. Move up to 130 for Gary. Maybe try to get in there, mix it up, and get into the WBA situation. The reason I say that is because a PBC fighter is actually going to possibly be a champion at the WBA at 130. Maybe you should think about moving up and going down the road towards Chris Colbert or something to that effect. But at 126, I don't know where the opportunities is going to come at. Ray Vargas is still there. Ray Vargas just recently moved up. But now that Gary doesn't have a belt, I don't know if Ray Vargas is going to honestly target Gary. I just don't know. You know what I mean? I just truly don't know. And I think the best move for Gary right now is to move up where they are, where there's more attention to a certain degree. There's not a lot of overwhelming attention on 126. Maybe he should think about going up to the other divisions where there's more attention and try to put himself in the mix and keep himself in the mix that way. I think that's the best route. As for Mark Magsayo, sky's the limit at this time. Shorty can, I think the best route for him at this present moment would be a unification fight with Leo Santa Cruz, as much as it pains me to hear for me to say that. And when I see that fight, if that fight gets announced, I'm going to be pissed off. I'm going to be 100 with y'all because it's going to look like Mark Magsayo got that fight as soon as he got the belt when Gary Russell Jr. has been chasing that fight for years. If Premier Boxing Champions is in the corner of a Russell, the very least that they can do to resurge his career the same way that they resurged Leo Santa Cruz's career is to put him in the ring with Leo. That would be the best thing that Premier Boxing Champions can do. Do I got faith that they will do it? No, I don't. And that's just keeping it 100. You know what I mean? That's just keeping it 100. But the best opponent for both men, actually, their best next opponent is Leo Santa Cruz. Leo Santa Cruz is going to be fighting on the undercard of Keith Thurman versus Mario Barrios. If he wins, he'll still have the WBA Super Championship at 126, and he can go into a unification fight. So that should be the target for both fighters if they can get him. But if Gary can't get him, they move up to 130 pounds. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Lala D says, yo, Gary was injured, but Magsayo was hot garbage versus Gary. Just my opinion. I'm with you, Lala. I'm with you. Was not impressed by Mark Magsayo by far. He just edged this out. And anytime you got an injured fighter, an aging injured fighter in front of you, and you cannot make it decisive, it's like, bro, your coming out party just was a dud. You know what I mean? He could have really made some waves tonight, but he just did not have that seemingly second gear. He just didn't have it. He just didn't have it. It just wasn't in him. I don't know where it was, but it is what it is. It is what it is. Adrian the Problem Bronner says, is there a rematch clause? Gary should have one, I think. Would love to see this again. I haven't heard anything about a rematch clause. I don't think it would be. It's a mandatory situation. So usually in situations with the mandatory, there's not a rematch clause. Y'all got to remember, Mark Magsayo is Gary Russell Jr.'s mandatory. This was not done on the voluntary. And normally in cases like that, unlike Anthony Joshua, most fighters don't normally have rematch clauses for a mandatory. You know what I mean? Lala D says Magsayo had nothing people hyped him about. Gary controlled him with one hand. Geesh, absolutely. Absolutely. Made him miss. The only problem was he just could not make him pay. That's the only problem. And my prediction for this fight was Gary make him miss and make him pay. And I believe that if Gary would have had both hands, he would have not only made him pay, but he would have made him pay with combination punching down the stretch. I seen it. Forget what y'all was seeing in those early rounds. Gary would have got his range down. And all of that missing and hitting gloves that Magsayo was doing, Gary would have been countering him in bunches. Gary would have been pumping that jab 3-4 times, bop, 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 touching him. Magsayo would have been running into shots left and right. None of us no, has known Gary Russell Jr. to be a pot shotter, a one-shot fighter. That ain't Gary. Gary is a combination puncher. And he couldn't do it. And he couldn't do it. So he loses his title with one of his best weapons literally taken away from him. And that's a fighter who literally throws 37 jabs around, fight fans. And he couldn't throw not one. From round 6 to round 12, Gary Russell Jr. landed 0 jabs. 0. Damn. But it is what it is. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Was it a robbery? Says Locked In. I'm not going to go down that train right now. This is my immediate reaction. That's why I deliberately title these streams immediate reaction, because I'm going to have to go back. Knowing me, I'm going to watch this fight 3-4 more times. You know what I'm saying? Before we go back, come on down, sit down and do a live stream, break down the numbers and everything like that. But this is my just immediate reaction. In my immediate reaction, I'm willing to give it to him. I'm willing to give it to him based on activity down the stretch. And that's the only thing that I can give him. Cleaner punching, it can be argued Gary landed just as much as he did. I can't wait to watch these punch stat numbers. Matter of fact, hold on, because I took a quick screenshot. Only problem is I didn't get Magsayo's, but I did get Gary's. So hold on real quick, fight fans. Matter of fact, we can talk some numbers right now. We can talk just a few numbers. Okay, I did manage to snap a quick picture of Gary Russell Jr.'s stats. I didn't manage to get Mark Magsayo's, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? But listen, looking at from what they showed on Showtime, Gary Russell Jr., check this out, fight fans. He landed 11 of 64 jabs. 11 jabs. Gary Russell Jr. landed 11 jabs. 11 of 64. Power shots. Gary Russell Jr. landed 58 of 259. And those 58 came mostly from him trying to land that straight left hand down the stretch and sitting on that shot. When it comes to total punches in general, Gary Russell Jr. 69 landed of 323 punches thrown and only 15 body shots landed. Man, he literally landed, fight fans, check this out, 5% of his jabs. 5% of his jabs. 11 of 64, that's 5%. That's not Gary Russell Jr. That's not Gary Russell Jr. That's not Gary Russell Jr. You know, it is what it is. I hope there's a rematch. A non-injured Gary destroys this dude all day. We all know that. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to give him a rematch. They're going to make this as like the biggest thing in the world. Mark Magsayo hit the jackpot. Sean Gibbons and Manny Pacquiao are going to be smiling from ear to ear. They're going to be looking for the biggest opportunities available. And that's just being honest about it. This is now Manny Pacquiao's second fighter, fight fans. Second fighter that's came in upset at the apple cart. Think about it. Casimero did it to Rigondeaux. And now you got Mark Magsayo coming in here and upsetting Gary Russell Jr. I know Manny Pacquiao got to be happy as hell right about now. Philippines, I know y'all got to be celebrating right about now as well. You know what I mean? Buddy Love says, where does Gary go from here? Like I said, I think that 130 is the best fit for Gary Russell Jr. Down at 126, the only thing that's left is Leo Santa Cruz. Premier boxing champions can do him a solid and maybe maneuver him towards that fight. But given the way that Premier boxing champions has been moving lately, they're moving towards about the dollar. We know that they cater into certain fan bases. Leo Santa Cruz, Mark Magsayo, Philippines, the Mexican fan base, the Latino fan base, clashing together. I think that's what they're going to probably look to try to do something like that. But as for Gary, I think 130 should be the next stop, man. That's just what I believe. Maybe try to go up there, maybe hopefully, maybe try to get a fight with Chris Colbert. If he can get into that Chris Colbert smoke, let's see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Adrian going in tonight, man. Adrian going in tonight. No robbery, in my opinion. Gary got outlanded by 90 something punches, and Mark pressed all action. Mark was missing though, bro. Hey, I'm surprised Mark Magsayo ain't injured his shoulder. I'm surprised he ain't got a torn rotator cuff or some shit. Because guess what? He was throwing all of them punches and he was missing so many punches. Where I'm surprised that he ain't got a damn injury. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. It is what it is. One thing y'all will say though is that for the most part, you can say that, especially down the stretch, Gary was landing the cleaner shots. That left hand that Gary was throwing was landing more cleaner than pretty much anything that Mark was landing. And Mark wasn't really landing consistently. I'm gonna look at these numbers and I'm gonna go back and watch this fight. Immediate reaction, fight fans. I'm giving it to Mark Magsayo, but I'm gonna go back and watch this fight. I'm definitely gonna watch this fight. Yeah, yeah, exactly, Vincent. He think that he the one that hurt Gary's shoulder. Yeah, Mark said, yeah, I hit him with a punch and he got hurt. Hey, Gary, like, man, I've been injured for the last 2 weeks, man. What you talking about, man? You know what I mean? Hey, man, they're gonna use this, but they're gonna promote the hell out of this, man. I know how shit go, man. They're gonna use this. The way this is gonna get spent in the Philippines is he hurt Gary Russell Jr. And he took the fight to Gary Russell. Especially really the Manila Times and all of those publications over in the Philippines. Oh, you can best believe they're gonna paint Mark Magsayo like a hero. You know what I mean? But we know what we saw, and he barely inched out the win tonight against a guy who had one arm for about 8 rounds straight. For 8 rounds. So it is what it is. You know what I mean? I won't say a word, but make sure that they know to mention him. Flunkies was like, ow, ow. Yeah, ow ain't gonna do shit. Owl ain't gonna do it. The good thing is, at least I did see Sam Watson line up behind Gary Russell Jr. after the fight was over. So it looks like that Owl is still in business with him. Not to mention Gary Russell Jr.'s younger brother. As you can see on the program, it was announced tonight. Now I'm turned up for this. This is good news. Gary Antoine Russell versus Victor Postal. Y'all see that coming up, fight fans. Gary Antoine Russell versus Victor Postal. Man, that's going to be one good hell of a fight. You know what I'm saying? I got Gary Antoine stopping Victor Postal. Let me just say that right off back. So that's looking to be coming on. I think they said, what, at the end of next month? February? Gary Antoine Russell versus Victor Postal. Look out for that one, fight fans. The Russell name is still very prominent in the sport of boxing. You know what I mean? Lala says that even Magsayo knows that Gary really won, but it's over now. I bet he knows better than to rematch too. There ain't gonna be no rematch. They're gonna run away from this. They're gonna run away from this. I'm saying more and more y'all come up and saying this. Look at this here. Brennan Smith, I thought Gary won. Y'all giving me something to go back to have to go watch. I am going to be paying close attention when I go back and watch this fight. You know what I'm saying? JP Mendez says Russell outclassed Magsayo with one hand. Magsayo needs to expand his skill set. He does. He needs to expand his skill set. He needs to get tighter defense, and most importantly, he needs to get more assurance or more heart. Should I say not heart, but more just be more assured of himself. It's like he doubts himself a lot in that ring. He becomes hesitant. He's very inaccurate too. He's wide open for counter shots each and every time. This is why Gary was able to counter him with just one hand. A fighter with two hands would counter him all night long. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, I don't see Mark Magsayo reigning long, but you know, he won tonight. You know what I'm saying? He won tonight. But I definitely don't see him reigning long. Chill out. I Am Supreme says, blowing up the homies, man. I told them Magsayo was winning. They going to hear me, man. Yeah, hey. Ain't nobody trying to hear that. Hold on 1 second, fight fans. Give me 1 second to chill my dog out. Hold on. Sorry about that, fight fans. My my brown lab, man. My chocolate lab. She gets irritated when Gary Russell Jr. loses as well. So y'all got to forgive her. You know what I mean? Kenneth Presto says, damn, Magsayo look bad. One arm, an old dude, and 2 years in inactivity, and this is coming from a Filipino American. Wow. Wow, wow. But you ain't telling nothing but the truth, bro. You ain't telling nothing but the truth. You know what I mean? I mean, he didn't look that good. He did not look good at all. I mean, when you want to make a statement, if you want to make a statement, you got to take the fight to that champion. You got to make it like, I mean, crystal clear. Like you got to dominate guys in that position. When you got somebody injured, you take advantage of it, man. You jump on them, you stop them, and then you would have let the world know you would have arrived. But when people see you hesitant, inactive, pretty much looking straight up and down, no special effects to you, against an injured champion, it just like, okay, we was expecting a little bit more. I mean, going into this fight, a lot of people was using power, power, power. He's so strong. He's so strong. Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to wonder now. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. It just didn't seem that way tonight. It just didn't seem that way tonight. Capadonna, salute to my homie Capadonna 24. And to everybody sliding on through, man, do the homie a favor and hit that thumbs up for me, man. And if you see me for the first time, I am the homie Mainman Mademan. We always keep this real spill going, man. I don't care what your boxing opinion is. Come on, rock out with the fam. Hit that subscribe button, man. We're going to come on back live tomorrow. I will have the phone lines open and have everybody to be able to have a chance to call in or either come on up on the panel and give me your opinion on how y'all believe this fight went. You know what I'm saying? Real spill. What's up, Philip, man? How you feeling, Philip Jackson, man? Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate you, man. He says another great show. I appreciate you, Philip. Yeah, I only wish the outcome was a bit different, man. Nah, Silver Salomo, don't say that to me, bro. Don't say that to me. I ain't even putting that on the screen, Silver. I can't do it, Silver. I can't do it. 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 Russell Jr. excuses like Teofimo Broner. No excuse, no rematch. I ain't hear no excuse. He just said he was injured. All he said is he was injured, and he said he landed the cleaner, effective shots. He felt as though he should have pulled it out. Look, one judge literally called this fight a draw. One judge had this fight 114 to 114. So if one judge is scoring it a draw and the other two judges only giving it to Magsayo by 2 rounds, Gary is not far off from saying why he feels the way he feels. It's not like the judges gave it to Magsayo like a 10-2 fight or some shit. You know what I'm saying? They gave it to him by 2 rounds. And that 2 rounds, the way this fight was going, honestly, maybe can be argued. 2 rounds. I had Magsayo winning, but 2 rounds. I had Magsayo winning by 1 round. 1 round. You know, so I gave Gary Russell Jr. 5 rounds. It wasn't that wide of a margin. And like I said, shit, I might go back and watch this thing again and find that 1 round. I just don't know. I just looked at down the stretch what was winning it for me for rounds 10 and 11. And I think that's the sweet spot that we need to go back and watch, fight fans. Rounds 10 and 11. That's the sweet spot. That's where either the fight was won or lost. I want to say this one more time for everyone that's going to go back and watch this fight. Pay attention to rounds 10 and 11. If you feel as though that Mark Magsayo won those 2 rounds, then he possibly won this fight, but barely. But if you feel as though that Gary Russell Jr., at least on my scorecard, if you feel as though that Gary Russell Jr. pulled out either rounds 10 or 11, then we're looking at either a draw or we can lean it the other way. But that's where I thought that the fight was won and lost at, in rounds 10 and 11. So I want everyone to hear me crystal clear on that. I gave those rounds to Mark Magsayo. I thought that Gary's left hand wasn't landing as much enough to win the round. And I thought that Mark was kicking his activity levels up. And most importantly, he was going to Gary's body and semi having success at that point in the fight. But if y'all seen something different in those rounds, then the argument can be something different, you know? Vincent says, this fight showed me how good Gary Russell really is. Absolutely, because like I told you, and what you got to leave impressed with Gary Russell tonight is, despite the fact he had one hand, one arm, despite that fact, he still damn near won this fight. He still used other tools to survive to the end of this fight. That's what I was telling people. To Gary Russell Jr., he has layers to his game. All right, my arm is gone. Damn, I got to figure something out now. Now I got to start moving more. Boom, setting that trap, looking for this counter shot. I told y'all the only thing I wish he would have did to add on to that was go upstairs and downstairs, upstairs and downstairs, upstairs and down. If he would have just snuck the left hand downstairs, then put it back up. Mark Magsayo's hands was not fast enough to catch his punches. They just wasn't. And Gary got caught and just trying to counter him with the straight left upstairs. And I was like, come on, mix it up, and you got him. That was the only thing, you know what I mean? But hey, there's layers to this man's game. A lot of other fighters would have folded a lot earlier than where Gary Russell Jr. went. You know what I mean? Real spill, man. Real spill. Yes, sir, DJ Zion Love. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Tiffany Pipe says TMT shirt. Wow, imagine that. Salute, King. Appreciate the content all day, Tiffany. I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm telling everybody, go back and watch that. I caught that off the jump. I said, matter of fact, because I was here doing my snapshots, let me see if I got a picture of one. I might have grabbed a picture of it, you know what I'm saying? Because we'll have to show it tomorrow. I'll probably post a picture of it, but normally throughout these fights, I do a lot of snapshots as the fight is going on, and I'm sure one of the ones I got have him with that TMT shirt on. And I was just looking at it like, when I seen him come to the ring with that shirt on, I said to myself, how much of a chance does Gary got with these judges tonight? How much of a chance does Gary got with these judges tonight? I just wonder. You know what I mean? I appreciate you, Tiffany. I really do. Vincent Roof says Gary was making him miss, but just not making him pay. That's the only thing. Gerald, what's up with you? What's up? I'm just going to leave it at this. They do not like the way that we fight. We can get out of any gym and make a fight and look stupid. They don't like that. They want, why don't you stand there so I can hit you? Nah, that ain't how it is. Slick. That's why they call it slick. You know what I'm saying? Gary ain't supposed to just stand there. That don't make no sense. You see that fight that went on before their fight, that rock'em sock'em robot type fight, back and forth and shit? Nah, that's how you get brain damage. That's how you have some bad health problems after the fight game. Nah, it's called hit and not get hit. The sweet science, you know what I mean? That's the way it's supposed to be. Ain't nobody gonna go brain dead over no boxing fans. You know what I'm saying? Yonatron, what's up, Yonatron? After the exit of Manny, the only good fighter left to watch is Nonito Donaire, and he is old as well. Yeah, I don't know how, I'm going to see and I'm going to monitor and I'm going to look and see how strong the Filipinos feel about Mark Magsayo's performance. I'm really going to be measuring that. You know what I mean? Is it? And if I have any fellow Filipinos in the chat, let me know. You know what I mean? How do y'all feel? How do y'all view him? Do you view him as a strong champion? You know what I'm saying? If you're from the Philippines, do you view him as a strong champion or someone that's going to pretty soon be beat? Riddle me that. You know what I'm saying? Riddle me that. Tiffany says, I got to see the fight. Oh, okay. You ain't seen it yet? It's all good. I mean, it's pretty much as I'm describing it. You're going to notice after round 4, Gary Russell Jr. was just a one-handed fighter. Just a one-handed fighter. One-arm fighter. 114, my ass. I hear you. Tell him, Tiffany, put some damn name on respect on the name of Gary Russell Jr. You damn right. DJ says that we can make that excuse about Russell's injury, but I don't think that even if he's healthy, Magsayo can't beat him. I think that Russell just became more careful after the injury, and that's why Magsayo can't hit him. He did become much more defensively sound after the injury. You know what I mean? And that was just one of the adjustments that he had made throughout of the fight. Because if you look in those first 3 rounds, he wasn't fighting that way. He was fighting more trying to find his range at that time, trying to paw his jab and find his range, and possibly look to set up his combination punching. But once that injury occurred, it made him had to make an adjustment, switch his style, become much more defensive, and try to lure Mark Magsayo into a trap size him up for a straight left hand, for a big left hand to possibly hurt him. So you're right. You're right. You're right about that. I'm going to flesh up some fight fans. I am so far behind in the chat. I got a lot of fans that came on through. Hey, there go my brother D-Lo 44 Boxing, man. What's up, D-Lo? Hey, D-Lo, if you got some time, bro. If you got some time, you want to come and chop it up, man. Let me put this in the chat for the homie. You know what I'm saying? If you got some time, D-Lo. If you got some time, fam. This is for my homie D-Lo 44 Boxing. Please, nobody else click this. If D-Lo, if you got some time and you want to come chop it up with the homie, bro, you already know. You know what I'm saying? Be my guest. Be my guest. You know what I'm saying? Be my guest. Unitron says Sam Watson is Al Heyman. Yeah. That's what some people think. You know what I'm saying? It's good to see them still line up behind Gary Russell Jr. You know what I'm saying? It's still good to see them lining up behind Gary Russell. D-Lo says, yo, Gary was painting him with his shots, but Mark won't see another Gary Russell Jr. Nah, won't happen. Won't happen. They won't rematch it. They're gonna take this belt, they're gonna take this win, and they're gonna run out the door. You know what I'm saying? They're gonna run out the door. What's up, Jim Well? What's up, Well? What's up with you? I'm chilling, man. I really enjoyed tonight's fight, but I'm hurting. Batman, there you go. Batman, if you got time, Batman, you know that link's for you too, bro. If you got time, bro, to give us some feedback on how you feel about it. That man controlled that man with one arm, says Batman. Hey, I hear you, man. I gotta say, man, I'm still impressed with Gary's performance of fighting on one arm. You know what I'm saying? And I think he did a good adjustment or whatnot. I just wish he would have mixed it upstairs and downstairs, but I thought the adjustment was good, and he did control. He still made a miss. His defense was solid. Upper body movement was working. All of that shit was working. The only thing I just think that wooed the judges, Batman, was just the volume. That's the only thing. I'm sure if you look at the volume, I'm pretty sure Magsayo outswung Gary 3-1. And I think that may have been the one and only thing that could have wooed the judges. You know what I'm saying? But it's going to be an argument to be made. Did he do enough to take it from the champ? Did he do enough to take it from the champ? That is the golden question. That is the golden question. Boxing Hog, what's up, fam? PBC, definitely. We're trying to set up the whole Russell family and screw them up. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I will say this, bro. I will say this. Him coming to the ring with that TMT shirt on, I don't know. I noticed that shit off the jump. And I'm just going to leave it at that, man. I'm just like, what's up with that shit? I thought you was Pacquiao fighter. What the hell you coming to the ring in Floyd Mayweather stuff? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Yeah, he controlled him, though, fam. He definitely controlled him. Watch they start talking pound for pound for Mark Magsayo. Psh. Man, Mark Magsayo ain't pound for pound nothing. You know what I'm saying? Mark Magsayo still got ways to go. And I'm telling you, man, if he doesn't tighten up soon, one of these other champions is going to take that belt up off him. I hate to say it. I think that Magsayo forgot to use his brain when he saw Gary got injured. He kind of thought that putting constant pressure would do the job, but hell no. But what he did in the first round will win for him clearly. Yeah, it wasn't so much he was doing constant pressure. It was just his inaccurate. He was just so very inaccurate. I thought instead of really constant pressure and kicking it up, it was more him being hesitant and doubting. Like, he was more on the outside. He wasn't really walking down Gary. He was like swinging at Gary, and then he'll overshoot or undershoot and swing himself out of position. But he was missing. He was hitting a lot of arms. Gary was just kind of getting out of the way of his shots. I mean, he just did not know how to finish Gary. He didn't know how to kick. He just didn't want to kick it to the next gear. And I find that to be a problem. And like I said, this is a problem that Mark Magsayo has shown in several fights. Not just tonight, but in several fights. Even in the Seha fight, a lot of his previous fights, Freddie Roach always has to get into the chest of Mark Magsayo, like, wake up, man. Wake the fuck up. You know, and that's something that he normally does. But in this case, he pretty much did it all the way up to about rounds 10. Like you said, like you're saying, Bad Drummers Corner. Early on, he was fighting a different kind of way. But after that injury occurred, it's like Magsayo semi-digressed And Russell started to fight, to me, a little bit of a better fight. He started becoming more defensively sound. Landed a lot of clean left hands. The only problem was the volume wasn't enough. And like I said, and he couldn't make him miss and pay as much as I would have liked to see. That's the only thing. You know what I'm saying? But shit, man. I mean, other than that, bro, Mark Magsayo was straight up and down, no special effects. You know what I'm saying? There's no special effects. Nah. Reynold Jordan says, I am Filipino, and you're telling the truth that it is lacking of. Absolutely. They calling him the second coming of Manny Pacquiao, Reynolds. They're calling him the second coming of Manny. I don't know. It's like the Adrian Bronner version. You know what I'm saying? I told people, man, he's the Adrian Bronner version of Manny Pacquiao, like Adrian Bronner was the bootleg version of Floyd Mayweather. It is what it is. It is what it is, man. But Reynolds says that I am Filipino. You're telling the truth that it's not really impressive. Magsayo's win. But a win is a win. Performance like Pacquiao will only become from Pacquiao. That is very true. That is very, very true. Adrian Tan says, how do you think that Mark would fare against a Navarrete or other 126-pound champs? That's a good question. That's a very good question. Given the caliber of the remaining champions, Kiko Martinez, I think he'll have a good chance against Kiko Martinez, but I think Leo Santa Cruz can probably edge him out. The reason being is that Leo is not a hesitant type fighter. Leo is a volume puncher himself. Leo throws a lot of punches and bunches. And Leo is one thing that he's never, ever, ever been is hesitant and doubtful of himself. So if Mark Magsayo goes in there and if Leo pushes Mark Magsayo on the back foot, I think that Mark Magsayo is a lesser fighter on the back foot as opposed on the front foot. See, Gary fought him tonight and allowed him to come forward all night. Gary couldn't give him combination punching to push him back. Leo would push him back. And I think that Mark Magsayo would not be nearly as good going backwards against Leo Santa Cruz, against a volume fighter, from what I've been seeing from him. But I think Leo Santa Cruz would perhaps have a good chance against him. I think Mark Magsayo has a really good chance against guys like Kiko Martinez. As Emmanuel Navarrete, no, I think Navarrete is very similar to Leo Santa Cruz, and I think Navarrete would take advantage of the fact that he would look to put him on his back heels as well and take the fight to Mark Magsayo. You know what I mean? Mark Magsayo normally likes those brawls, but the problem, the difference is Magsayo shines in those brawls coming forward, not going backwards. And I think that Navarrete and Leo Santa Cruz would make him go backwards. You know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion, Adrian. That's my opinion. But it's still good stuff, man. So look here, fight fans. We've been going for a while. I'm going to get on up out of here tonight, man. Yo, hit that thumbs up for me once again, fight fans. I'm going to come on back tomorrow. What I'm going to do, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to process the numbers. I'm going to go through the stats. I'm going to watch the fight 2-3 more times. And we're going to sit down and we're going to do a full-fledged live stream. Not just an immediate reaction, but an actual live stream, professional-like, and actually breaking down this fight into everything that we saw. But it was an interesting fight. Mark Magsayo pulled it out, dethroning the longest reigning champion in boxing by defeating Gary Russell Jr. tonight. And I can already see from the vibe that I'm getting from a lot of boxing fans that there's going to be a energy out there that believes that Gary Russell Jr. pulled this out. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to do my homework, and I'm going to go see what I see. But as for my immediate reaction, I scored this fight fans, 7-5 in favor of Mark Magsayo. I thought he won it on volume punching and just pretty much outworking Gary down the stretch. But skill-wise, I do not leave impressed. And I can't say I'm dying to see Mark Magsayo's next fight. I thought he should have took advantage of Gary tonight, and he didn't. That's what real fighters do. That's what champions do. They make a mark. They leave a mark. And Mark, tonight, unfortunately, did not leave much of a mark. It is what it is. Thumbs up on the way out if you didn't hit it on the way in. Share. Rock those bells. See y'all tomorrow. Come on tomorrow evening for We Talking Boxing, we'll do it. If you're seeing me for the first time, hit the subscribe button, join the fam. Everybody I see in this chat tonight, they are all fam. This is family members of the channel, and I don't care what your boxing opinion is. I don't care who you support. We're not like that over here. Support who you support and tell me why your guy is better than everybody else's guy. And that's how I feel. Thumbs up for the homie. I see y'all real soon. Y'all have a blessed night. Stay stress and sucker free. Congratulations to both men. I'm glad that they both at least made it out with their faculties. No one had to take no trips to the hospital tonight. You know, nothing like that. But all in all, I'm just glad that we were all entertained tonight. And we got a chance to see Gary Russell and Mark Magsayo fight. So it is what it is. To the next video. Much love to the fam, man. Peace out.